Ah, yeah. Sorry for the press conference being so short, yes. But I was there in the room for quite some time. They just didn't stop the conference. So. Yeah, the big brother will tell. Will tell.
This is very kind, thank you. Take a bit of the shine off.
You know, there is one European Prime Minister that always
do a countdown.
Okay.
5, 4.
High Representative, thank you very much for talking to Reuters. I want to begin by picking up on something you said yesterday at the Foreign Affairs Council. You mentioned the idea of the Black Sea grain deal as a model for the Strait of Hormuz. How would that work?
Well, in the Black Sea, if you remember, we also had, rockets flying and there was heavy fighting. But the United Nations managed to actually negotiate with all the countries around the Black Sea to get the grain out via the Black Sea so that there would be any famine in Africa. And a similar model could be used for the Strait of Hormuz.
And would you imagine that applying to everything? Oil, gas, fertilizer?
I think, there are different products, really. One is energy products like gas and oil, and then there are fertilizers and food. Energy, especially Asia, is very much dependent on the energy that goes via the Strait of Hormuz. Like 85% of it comes via this strait. So for them, this is equally important in agriculture, in everyday lives. And fertilizers is equally similar. So I think these are the fundamental groups. Now, the question is what also the neighboring countries could agree to, especially Iran.
Have you started some contacts about this? What's your initial sense of how feasible it is?
Well, I spoke to the UN Secretary General because it was a UN initiative and for UN to have a role. So they are working on this, and of course we are ready to help also in this regard.
Coming again to yesterday's Foreign Affairs Council, you said there was no appetite to extend the EU's naval mission in the Middle East to include the Strait of Hormuz, but Donald Trump has warned it will be bad for NATO if Europeans don't help there. How concerned are you by that? And is the door completely closed to a European participation in some effort to free up the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we had those discussions, and the main concern of the European countries is that we were not consulted with, starting this war. Actually, the opposite. There were many Europeans who were trying to convince US and Israel not to start this war. Also, the regional partners were very, very strong on this. And we were not consulted with the objectives of this war. Where does it go? It's not clear. So therefore, the feeling is this is not Europe's war. If, US, is also part of NATO, by the way, is not putting their ships to actually keep the navigation routes open, then the question for our member states is the same. Now, saying that, it is also very important to stress that the freedom of navigation is extremely important to European countries. We have our operation Aspides that is working in the Red Sea, and we haven't seen the Houthi attacks yet, so that's why the member states also said that let's keep this operation in the Red Sea, to keep that route open, and also to strengthen that operation so that there would be a freedom of navigation for this alternative route.
But as you say, even if Europe didn't start this war, was not directly participating in it, the consequences for Europe could be very important. Also in security terms, as NATO is the main guarantor of European security. So is it wise to close the door here to some kind of participation?
I don't think the door is closed. I mean, like I said yesterday as well, for the time being, member states do not have an appetite to change the mandate of this operation, especially because the Red Sea is still important as well. So nobody is ready to put their people in harm's way in the Strait of Hormuz. But like I said, we have to find, diplomatic ways to keep this open so that we don't have a, food crisis, fertilizers crisis, energy crisis in the world.
So you would imagine some kind of diplomatic solution and then European navies could be involved there. Is that more likely?
Yes, that is what member states were saying. I mean, after the hostilities have stopped, then the case might be different.
Could you describe the mood yesterday in the room and also in your conversations with foreign ministers over these past 2 weeks? What's the mood towards America like? How much frustration and anger is there at the moment?
Well, of course, we are allies with America, but we don't really understand their moves recently. Like I said, also we haven't been consulted and we don't really understand what are the objectives of this war. So I think this is the underlying feeling. At the same time, I mean, we are willing to also invest in our relationship, in the transatlantic partnership that has been under heavy strain. But, it takes two to tango. Every relationship has two sides. So let's look at things that we can do together. And, if our participation is needed here and there, also we expect that we are consulted.
When you talk about investing in the relationship, how can Europe invest in the transatlantic relationship?
Well, through our contacts, of course, on various levels. I mean, when it comes to, energy, we had, meeting with the energy ministers. When it comes to, different also security theaters that we are equally concerned. I mean, Americans' concern has always been, the Indo-Pacific and especially, in the South China Sea. So we definitely also can see the risks that come from there. And one very important aspect where we, I think, there's much room for cooperation is to really address the economic cursive practices that come from China, for example, that are equally crippling our economy as well as America.
Is there any other way to stabilize this relationship, or is it just always going to be a roller coaster, do you think, as long as President Trump is in office?
I think it is pretty clear after this 1 year that the word that we have to take into account is unpredictability. So we are now more calm because we are, expecting the unpredictable things to happen all the time, and take it as it is. Put some ice in our hats and be calm and stay focused.
From a European point of view, is it time for the US and Israel to end this war? I mean, they had some objectives which they have stated, which were to degrade Iran's military capability. They say they've destroyed the navy, the ballistic missiles. Is it time to bring it to an end?
Absolutely. I think, it would be in the interest of everybody if this war stops. The problem with wars is that it's easier to start than to stop them, and it always gets out of hands. So, of course, we are willing to help, also diplomatically to bring the parties together to really stop this war. Also, we have been consulting with regional countries like the Gulf countries, Jordan, Egypt, whether we could also bring forward proposals for Iran, Israel and US to get out of this situation so that everybody saves face.
So is the EU already playing a mediation role, or could play a mediation role, to bring this to an end?
No, we are in contact with the partners around this conflict, really, and to see that together we are actually a strong voice. I mean, yesterday we had Foreign Minister of India also equally saying that we can do this together, and together we are really a force to say that maybe it's time to stop, because again, like I said, it has huge implications for the world economy.
One final question, if I may. As you know, the Belgian Prime Minister, Bart de Wever, has said it's time for the EU to normalise relations with Russia, or he said that the EU must do that and regain access to cheap energy. And he says that behind closed doors, European leaders agree with him. Is he right? Is that your impression of conversations with European leaders? Is that the foreign policy that you represent or will have to represent?
I've been also behind those closed doors when we talk about leaders' meetings, and I don't see this appetite. And when we talk to Russia, of course, most important thing is to first agree what we want to talk them about. I mean, because if we just go back to business as usual, we will have more of this, more wars. We have seen this before, so we have to be very vigilant and not to actually give Russia what they want, because their appetite will only grow.
Thank you very much, High Representative.
Thank you.